very welcome along to Season 5, Episode 23 of the Champ.ie podcast, Ireland's premier horse racing podcast in association with Boylesports, Gowran Park Racecourse, KCLR Radio and Syndicates Racing. Coming up on this week's show, Barry speaks to special guest Michael O'Sullivan about star chaser Marine Nationale and recent success in the saddle. The lads look ahead to 5 key races at the Dublin Racing Festival, as well as giving their best bets and naps for the weekend.
Here's Marine Nationale on the outside, who made a slight mistake. Then Champ.ie inside the final 150 yards. It's Irish point from Marine Nationale, who's coming with every stride. They're going to the line. Irish point, Marine Nationale on the near side. Marine Nationale and Irish point have put it in a judge.
If you haven't already, be sure to like this video and subscribe to the Champ.ie YouTube channel, as it helps to get horse racing content out there to the wider audience. We look forward to reading all your Dublin Racing Festival #5K selections in the comments below. Sit back, relax and enjoy the show.
Boylesports. Don't just bet, choose wisely.
Hello and welcome along to Champ.ie. Dublin Racing Festival weekend is upon us. A week on from a brilliant day down at Gowran Park at the Goffs Thyestes. We're back with 5 more key races to look forward to. And of course, we're in association with our betting partner, Boylesports, Syndicates Racing and Gowran Park Racecourse. And of course, recently joining the setup, KCLR Radio. And great to have all our partners involved. We're going to look ahead to 5 key races, which you can see now on screens, all graded and listed races for us this weekend at the Leopardstown Festival over the 2 days, and it is going to be an absolutely epic weekend of racing. Barry Doyle, as always, is with us, and Ronan Groome from the Irish Field joins us this week. And I suppose, firstly, lads, quick fire round. We're going to start off, Barry. Galloping the Champ or fast or slow?
Galloping the Champ, if he puts up the same level of performance as he did over Christmas, is going to be very tough to beat. That's my question mark, though. Can he do it again? Can he put up that level of performance? Do you want to be peaking, David, on the 28th of December? I'm not so sure that he can replicate that level of performance. And if he doesn't, I think fast or slow has every chance of making it 3-0 for a very good target trainer, of course, Martin Brazel.
Stateman or Imperi Pa?
I think Stateman will win again, David. I think he's the ultimate professional, isn't he, as a racehorse? He jumps, he settles, he stays quite well, but he has that turn of foot as well that the real top 2-milers need. And it's just unfortunate he's living in the Constitution Hill era.
And Marine Nationale against now Facile Vega.
Disappointed we don't see the Gaelic Warrior versus Marine Nationale clash, but it has to be Marine Nationale. I love the way he jumped. I love the way he quickened away from his fences, in particular last time at Leopardstown. He was a fraction keener than I think we've seen him before in his racing career. I think the drying ground is going to suit him even more, though. And Facile Vega, I think, needs to step up and trip and softer ground. So I'm very much in the Marine Nationale camp. I think he'll take the world of beating.
Ronan, before I come to you with the very same quickfire round of questions, is it a disappointing entry overall for the Dublin Racing Festival, or am I being hard by saying that on some of the entries that we've seen this weekend?
I can see what you're saying, David. Some of I guess it's very Willie Mullins dominated, and some of the races are a bit uncompetitive. I'm talking, you're thinking about Stateman and El Fabiolo. Even Galloping the Champ is well odds on, I suppose. So I can see where you're coming from, but I guess the caliber of horses is sensational, and I suppose the novice races are good, especially the Ladbrokes Novice Chase. That could really be the highlight now of the weekend, with Gaelic Warrior possibly going there. So I'd say there is still enough to get your teeth stuck into, but I do see where you're coming from, and people who want to spread the horses, further out than what it is, and will probably balk at this. I think Willie could easily have 7 Grade 1 winners, which probably isn't a great look, but that's just the way it is at the moment, I suppose.
Yeah, nothing you can do about that. So, same 3 questions to you, Ronan. Galloping the Champ or fast or slow?
Galloping the Champ, I think, will win easily. I think the key to him now, they've quashed out the kind of talk that the Cheltenham, like I was one of his doubters after that Cheltenham and his 2 performances after the Gold Cup just weren't up to scratch, and you would have been worried, like a lot of people were worried, including me, after the John Durkin. But in hindsight's a wonderful thing. They held him up that day, and after training him last season, all last season basically, to see out the trip and relax, probably just going back to 2.5 miles and holding him up just wasn't the thing to do. back at Leopardstown, bounced out in front, aggressive from the front. He absolutely pulverised them. Like, Fast or Slow's beat him the last twice, but he definitely hasn't beaten Gallop in the Champs as good as this. And if he's anywhere near what he did at Christmas, even if what Barry says is correct, that he might be a bit, might be carrying a bit from that run, I think he'll still win easily.
Stateman or Imperi Pa?
Stateman should win easily and probably win by 3 to 5 lengths. I was just doing a little looking back at his wins there. He always seems to win by that amount of much, 3 to 5 lengths. 7 of his Grade 1 wins have come over that distance. He's so simple, so straightforward, just gets the job done. You put him in front and he doesn't win too far, but he always wins. Perry Pa, hopefully they give him a bit of, they might give him a bit more chance, try something different on him, maybe ride him forward a bit more or send him on quicker and give Stateman something to think about in the straight, but I don't know if that'll happen or whether Daryl Jekyll will be allowed to do that. So I think Stateman wins handy.
Marine Nationale or Facile Vega?
The Marine Nationale should win. He's like Facile Vega, you can make excuses for him the last day with the Founder 50 jumping into him and stuff, but even after that, his finishing effort was pretty tame. And even if he did come back to his best, and I know Willie Mullins loves him, and maybe that's the reason that he's given him another chance here instead of Gaelic Warrior, that he seems to be have a huge graw for him, does Willie Mullins. But even if he was back to his best, Marine Nationale seemed to beat him when he was at his best at Cheltenham. So I can't see past Barry Connell's horse.
Right, well, this week on the show, and we mentioned it last week, we've got a fantastic guest in Michael O'Sullivan, and he will be on board Marine Nationale this week at the Dublin Racing Festival. He'll be joining us later on in the show. And Barry, what about that lovely prize Jack Cantillon has given us and given Champ.ie listeners the chance of winning?
Well, I know we were slagging Gerri Colombe.
No. You were slagging Gerri Colombe. Just be careful. We weren't slagging any Gerri Colombe.
Fairness to Capadano has come out and maybe boosted the form a little bit. But Jack Cantillon very kindly has put up a prize, a half-sister, a 1% share and a half-sister to Gerri Colombe, who we will see out on the racecourse, pretty shortly. I think they're hoping to get a run into this daughter, or this half-sister, should I say, to Gerri Colombe. So you'll see full details. To enter the competition, you must pick a winner at the Dublin Racing Festival, and we're going to give the prize away to the person who picks the biggest priced winner at the Dublin Racing Festival. So it could be any of the races. Click the link in the description to enter, and you must also be a subscriber to the Champ.ie podcast and put your 5 down below to have every single chance of winning. And worth noting as well, David, we got serious interaction from at the Thyestes preview, but just looking back at a couple of the channel stats, David, I think it's a little lower, would you believe, than 40% of our entire listenership this season. Lower than 40% are actually subscribed to the channel. So if you haven't subscribed, hit the red button. It helps us out a lot. And I think we're going to start a campaign very, very shortly. The Drive for 5. Tipperary know all about that, David.
Moving on. That's a bit low, but anyway, we're going to start off by looking ahead to the race in action. And as well as that, the biggest prize winner, of course, this weekend, you said that the way things are looking could be 4-1 on the card at Leopardstown with so many shorties. But nonetheless, best of luck with your 5 selections. And of course, if you're entered in for the prize, best of luck on that one as well. Right, lads, let's kick on. Predator's Goal runs in the first race. We're going to look at the Nathaniel Lacey Novices Hurdle. I thought there was lots to like about the performance last time out. Second, it steps Predator's Goal stepping up significantly in trip. I'm napping this horse this weekend. I really, really like the chances of Predator's Goal. Paul Townend on board, the Jigginstown house runner. Loch Lynn is second in the betting for Willie Mullins as well, and then comes Jatara. Ronan, I've come down strong on this. I've looked at this race pretty much all day to find my nap selection, and I really do think Predator's Goal is an outstanding chance. How do you see the opener, the 120 go at Leopardstown on Saturday?
Yeah, just Dave, I wouldn't put you off. Then you sound like you're pretty confident with him. I like him the last day. I'd say he probably has the best form in the race. Chase down Caldwell Potter there, and I'd say I don't think the race was done with actually when he made his mistake at the last, because obviously I like Caldwell Potter. I'd backed him for that race, and my feeling was that Predator's Goal was coming to get him, or coming at least to challenge him, and he made that mistake at the last, and that was kind of that. Whether he would have won now, I don't know, or got closer, I'm not sure, but it's still pretty good form on heavy ground. And I had him down now. He won his maiden hurdle over 2-3. down as an improver for this sort of trip. So when you put that all together, and Paul Townend picking him, I can see why he's favourite. I just thought the race was a bit more open than that, and I'm not sure how easy the decision was for Paul Townend. Like Loughlin won quite snugly, I suppose, down in Limerick, albeit it was a pretty slowly run race. And Stellar Story, I actually fancy him to get a bit closer to Loughlin this time, especially if there was a bit of pace here, but there actually doesn't look like there is a bit of pace. What it might suit, the horse it might suit is Jatara, and I think she's pretty interesting here now for the girls. Rachel Blackmore riding for Jessica Harrington. She comes here on a crest of the wave. She's a second season novice. She's won her last 3. She's America 142. I think that might even a little underrate her. She had Risk Bell behind her the last day. She's favourite for the Paddy Mullins on Sunday. That Risk Bell is rated 137. She had her well held, and the horses tell me something. The girl has come out in one sense as well. So I think she would America 142, £7 allowance. That brings her to 149. I'm not sure there's anything in this race that's at that level yet, and I'd be more than willing to take a chance on her. I think she's 4-1 with Boyles, and I think could see her outrunning that. I think she could be a little bit shorter in the betting than she is at the moment.
And Barry, you're, I think, in the same camp as Ronan. Are you on this? You're very much a Jatara fan as well for the opener.
Well, it's not often we agree on almost everything, but I cannot disagree with anything Ronan has said. First of all, the point he made about Paul Townend, and the decision he's had to make here. Obviously, the 5-year-old Predators goal, that's decent form. He's stepping up and trip. One of the interesting points, I think, to mention is 9 of the last 12 winners of this race, David, have actually won at least once over 2.5 miles. So stamina obviously is going to be to the fore here. The ground is drying out. She's by walk in the park. That's a fair rating, as Ronan mentioned. 142, second season novice, to be getting £7 off the boys here. She's clearly going in the right direction. I love these mares when they start improving, especially at this level. She's 6 years of age, and there's probably a lot more improvement to come here with this girl. And she's on a hat trick. She landed a hat trick at Christmas. So she's on a 4-timer. She's starting to really get the hang of winning, and I suppose stepping up and trip again. A further 2 furlongs here is definitely not going to be an inconvenience. So I thought with the drying ground as well, on pedigree, she's clearly handled soft and heavy ground in the past. But I think Jessica Harrington made reference to that, though, when she sees a little bit of nicer ground, and we're not due much rain between Saturday and even into Sunday. I think that's definitely going to be a plus for her. She's a course winner. She's had 2 starts at Leopardstown, David, in her life. She's won and she's finished second. Of course, she finished second to High Definition last year over a trip plenty short. So she's still unexposed over the distance. And as Ronan mentioned, I just think given her rate and getting the £7, I think 4-1 is a cracking bet. And to me, she looks one of the best bets of the weekend at that price.
Well, there goes the pressure on my nap then from the 2 professionals in that first race. Right, let's move on, because we'll move on to the 150. It is another of the grade 1s. It's the Juvenile Hurdle. And again, Willie Mullins is very, very strongly represented here. Paul Townend has chosen Storm Heart, and Mark Walsh takes the mount on the JP-owned runner Majborough at in around 11-2, and Cala Conti then for Gordon Elliott. Cargeese, I thought, could be an interesting runner. That's the mount of Danny Mullins. Barry, I'll come to you this time for your thoughts on this grade 1.
But I really like Storm Heart. On its debut at Punchestown, it was really testing ground, heavy ground, but it's not often you see a horse show a turn of foot like he did on that type of ground. And he opened up. He put, I think, 22 lengths between himself and the second on that occasion. He jumped well in the main. If you look at the race back, he met a little bit of trouble in running as well, so he was inconvenienced. And I thought he showed, I thought he done it nicely considering all that went wrong in the race for him. The strength of the overall form, it's probably kind of tough to work out. But I like the experience he has as well. He's had 5 runs, David, in his life in France. So I think that'll stand to him here. And I think in a better race, in a better quality race and a stronger pace, you're probably going to see him to even better effect. So the ground drying out as well. He was a winner on good ground as well. It's worth noting, over 1 mile and 4 furlongs in France. So for me, I think he's probably close to banker material on day 1 of the Dublin Racing Festival.
Right, Ronan, your thoughts on it?
It's not a Juvenile Hurdles are not really my bag. Saying that, this is an excellent race. I'm sure it's going to be very informative, and I'm sure the market will tell you plenty close to close to the off with Willie Mullins of 6 here. I'm pretty sure he had 6 in the race last season. Obviously, Lossiemouth was the main one there, but this one, it seems to be a bit more open. You're basically just dealing with impressive kind of one-time raced horses, the likes of Bunting and Stormheart and High Wind. And it's funny that Ethical Diamond's a 33 to 1 shot. He seemed to be the one that they were latching on to earlier in the season. So it wouldn't even surprise me if he turned up and ran well. If I was looking like Calaconti's there with the kind of proven form standard, and gun to head, I'd probably go for her. She has the experience, and I think she might still be that. I'm more than willing to kind of back that form from the last day, the grade 2 there in St. Stephen's Day. That was a bit of a messy race, but if you look before that, she was only beaten just by Nürburgring, and the pair of them came 18 lengths clear at Fairyhouse. So I think she could still be okay. And it's just a product of the race the last day that she only won that far. And people are kind of crabbing her because, it was a slowly run race and she was given a good ride. I still think she could be okay. And Intelletto, out of the maiden hurdle winners, I thought he did it nicely at Christmas and kind of went a bit under the radar. Yeah. He's a son of Lope de Vega, big kind of raking son of Lope de Vega. And he looked a bit kind of disjointed coming to the last, and then basically just took off and went clear. So I agree. I think he could be a decent enough option if you were wanting to take a swing on one of the maiden hurdle winners. He'd be the one for me, but probably not a betting race for me, Dave, I have to say.
Just to mention, David, just on that, because when we had JJ Slevin on the show, we asked him for a juvenile hurdler to follow, and the first one he did mention out of Joseph's was Intelletto. He came out and won, obviously, very impressively. The nicer ground is going to suit him as well, and it's just interesting. Joseph has won this race twice in the last 5 years, so wouldn't discount that runner that Ronan has mentioned. But of everything that we've seen, I think Stormheart could be the one.
Yeah, well, as Michael O'Leary would say if he was here this evening, chaps, he'd say they're two very nice horses. I'm expecting both of them to run extremely well. And you never know, if they do what they're supposed to do at the Dublin Racing Festival, we might go to Cheltenham. On the back of that, we'll take our first ad break.
Granger and Patrick Mullins.
McGree had justified favouritism, but sharp object out in front was ready for John McConnell and Alex Harvey.
Western victory, Silver Lark. Never made the finishing order.
Connolly's Red Mills Day coming up at Gowran Park. Michael O'Leary has just moved on and is already considering legal action against the podcast Champ.ie on our actions. Right, lads, let's move on because we have plenty to get through. We're going to look at the next. It is, of course, the listed handicap hurdle here at Leopardstown. It's the 3:00 contest. Brian Hayes and Willie Mullins, Ronan Groome at the moment team up with the favourite Fine Margin, who seems to have plenty of good credentials for a race such as this, but it is quite a good one. It's competitive. What do you like?
It's very unoriginal, Dave, but I quite like the favourite here, Fine Margin. I know it's not great to be putting up a horse like that in such a big race with a hugely competitive big field, but you can't get away from the run the last day behind Slate Lane over in what used to be the fixed brush at Haydock, and that form's worked out so well with Crambo obviously coming out to win a grade 1 since. Hasn't ran since, but lightly raced Willie Mullins' horse. What's not to like here? This race has seen some bolt up performance before, and you wouldn't be absolutely it wouldn't surprise you, I suppose, if he did go and do it well. And the price is probably shot to pieces now, but I could just see him winning well. It's probably not a betting proposition, but like if I went down the field and you push me to have one at a bigger kind of price, I think Ailey Rose is possibly interesting there for Stuart Crawford. She's a mare I liked quite a lot. I thought she ran quite well at Navan in December. She was fourth in that race. That was on her first run in 228 days, and she's since won over an Ayr. Like she's improved. Like she's off a mark of 137 now. It's not great, but she'll handle the heavy ground. If it does end up heavy on the hurdles track, she'll handle that fine. And she seems to be going the right way this season. She'd be one that I'd be looking at a much bigger price if you wanted that sort of thing. I'm sure you'll get nice each way terms, but I think the favourite could be difficult to beat here.
Yeah, favourite could be well in, couldn't it, Barry, for Willie Mullins and Brian Hayes. Has certainly been strongly supported in the market, in around the 7-2 mark at the minute. What about one horse, Barry, I'd like to ask you about your thoughts on. I thought Canal Inn could be an interesting runner. Always these colours, when you go for these big handicaps, the green and gold colours, they can produce the magic. Would you give Peter Fahey's horse any chance? And if not, what do you like in it?
Well, it was interesting. Ronan said it was very unoriginal going for a favourite in a race with 24 runners. But to be fair, we've only seen, only one of the last 9 winners of this race have actually returned double-figure odds. So it tends to be a race that favours the front end of the market, and Canal End is up there as well. Could be very unexposed, obviously, after finishing third when last seen. There's only one win in its career, Canal End. But look, it has only had 6 starts, so it could be open to any amount of improvement. I've looked right down the bottom of the weights, and one that might just stick in. I mentioned the 24 runners. The one I like is, it's actually number 24 on the race card, and it's Aishan, who I caught my eye, David, and I have to say, I thought it was quite impressive. It was well backed for Sam Curling, who had, of course, the third in the Thyestes Chase with Angels Dawn, his only runner in the last fortnight. And so that's, obviously, this horse is a big price. He's 18-1. Philip Enright booked once again. He would have had his pick here, Philip Enright. Always a man to follow in these big handicaps at Leopardstown or even Limerick at Christmas. Philip Enright, top jockey. I don't think he gets, the credit he deserves sometimes in these big handicaps. But it's only a 6-year-old. It's only had 14 runs in its life. Clearly handles testing ground. Probably the more testing, the better for this horse. But I suppose on a positive note, there's plenty of pace in the race. He stays well. And I thought he won with a little bit up his sleeve. He's been raised £8 for that victory at Limerick at Christmas. And look, I'd say getting in here with just 10 stone 1 on his back, I'd say he mightn't be too far away. So one at a big price, 18-1. The horse I like here is Aishan. But as you two gentlemen both mentioned, you like ones at the top of the market, and the stats probably, but the stats wouldn't put you off that.
No, certainly not in that race. But look, I'm sure there'll be plenty of opinion around that listed contest in the 3 o'clock contest. Right, let's move on, because we've got the Ryanair Handicap Chase. It's a listed contest at 4:10. Gavin Cromwell's got the favourite currently in at the top of the market. Pat Doreau, Barry. Solness is 5-1 for Joseph O'Brien and JJ Slevin. Madara then is next. The Folks Tiara 11-2 in around that mark. And the big chap, named after yourself, Baz, he's a 7-1 chance in the betting. So what way will the big chap run? And what, apart from that, what's going to win it?
It's funny that the stats actually say that favourites don't have a record in this race, and I'm going to go with the favourite, Pat Doreau for Gavin Cromwell, who does have a good record in the race himself, David. Pat Doreau horse I've always liked. Ronan will be aware of this. Tipped him up for the county hurdle last year at Cheltenham. He ran very disappointing in the race. But looking at his chasing mark, I mean, he's rated 136. That's £3 lower. He was obviously second to Hunter's Yarn. Getting what I would say is a confidence booster last time at Fairyhouse in the beginners, but he was coming to win, I thought, at Christmas, and he looked well treated going into his race at Christmas over the course and distance at Leopardstown. As I said, he's had the confidence booster. I thought he jumped a little bit better the last day as well. He's lightly raced. He's only had, I think, a total of 14 runs in his life, and he was, I think he could be basically well treated off that type of mark, 136 for a master in these handicaps, Gavin Cromwell. But as I mentioned, I think only 2 of the last 12 winners have actually went off favourites. So it'll be interesting, but with Gavin Cromwell's runner.
Well, by the time this 4:10 comes along on Saturday, Ronan, if predictions are right or anything to go by on this podcast so far, I'm not sure if the bookmakers will have anything left to pay out after the favourites' choices so far. But that's just the way the look of the card. What's your take on it, Ronan? You with the favourite, or are you going to go for something at a bigger price?
Oh, I'd be taking him on. I don't think the start favourite, Pat Doreau. I think either Solness or Madara will start favourites. So, like the Solness won really well at Fairyhouse in easy fix race there just before Christmas at the winter meeting that like won really well. It's surprised not to see him in the Dan Moore, but maybe they've kept him for this. Like Pat Thoreau was in that race and the Folks Tiara, and both very well held. They kind of would have fought out to finish if Pat Thoreau hadn't been collided into at last when in that race at the Folks Tiara won outside Stevens' day. So I just think that form at Fairyhouse is above this. Saying that, I like the British horse here, Madara, off a mark of 133 in Ireland, £2 lower than he is in Britain. He's only a 5-year-old recruit from France for Sophie Leach. 3 runs this season, improved on each start, and won very well at Cheltenham the last day. I thought he was good value for the win that day, and I like the way they've come over here. I always just seem to think that the 2-mile handicap kind of chase division in Ireland is not the strongest. You often see the big trainers, the likes of Gordon as well. He loves going and recruiting or trying to find that 2-mile handicap chaser that can come back and go for these big pots. So I'm really happy to see a British trainer come over and have a go. And this Madara, only a 5-year-old, loads of scope to progress. I could see him starting favourite, to be honest with you. And he'd be one of my better bets now at the weekend.
Right, very interesting. That's the thoughts then on that race. We're going to look at one race on Sunday, and don't forget as well to enter your 5 selections below, and as well as entering the great prize. We want to give away a 1% share in Gerri Colombe's half-sister competition, and click on the link in the subscription below and you can enter. And it's all about finding a big prize winner at the Dublin Racing Festival, and whoever that person is who finds the biggest prize winner, you'll go into a draw, and you'll be in with a chance of winning that great prize. Right, lads, final race in our 5cast this week. It's a race on Sunday, and of course it is the 2-mile Liffey Handicap Hurdle. It's a listed contest at 350, and Ronan, going to give first dibs to you on this one.
Yeah, I'm going for another bit of a swing here, Dave. I like a horse called Conyers Hill for Paul Nolan. Now, this horse needs to be kind of ridden with lots of restraint, comes from the back. I just thought the tactics on him the last day were a bit exaggerated, and he just got a bit stuck in the mud on the over Christmas and couldn't make his ground from the back. If you go back to his run the last day, he was third to common practice in the good 2-mile handicap hurdle at Fairyhouse, and that occasion he was able to, it was a real good fast pace. There's loads of them coming down to the last, and he was able to cut through the field. I think I could see that happening here. The ground could just be a little bit better for him now. It might just dry out by the time we get to Sunday, and I think he's well handicapped. Well, not well handicapped. I think he's off a mark that he can definitely, if everything falls right for him now. I appreciate you have to. You will need to be riding for luck here. You'd be hostage to fortune and race pace, but I'd imagine that there should be a good pace on here with the big field, and I could just see him coming through the pack late on. And in a race where you're probably likely to get good each way terms, he appealed now off of, I could definitely see him like going off 25 to 1, that sort of price. And that would do for me. I think he is really interesting. I hope he is declared by the Nolans, because I'd be looking forward to seeing him.
Right, Barry, what are you liking it?
Well, Thomas Kyle, of course, was a great member of the podcast. He actually pre-trained Attaboy Charlie, who did win for Eddie Cawley on just his 4th start in the racecourse. That was his handicap debut in Novice Handicap Company as well. That was on St. Stephen's Day. He won very, very impressively. He's getting in here off 10 stone 4. And I think he could be very dangerous after that type of mark. Just an interesting little stat on the race. It tends to favour this Liffey handicap at Leopardstown. Younger unexposed types. I think all of the last 12 winners were 7 years of age or younger. So this horse, he's only had the 4 starts in his life. He could be open to plenty of improvement. He's 6 to 1 at the moment for Eddie Cawley, who's getting a better quality of horse. And I just think this fella, he strikes me as the sort of one that could really stay improving this season. And off his type of mark there, 123, 10 stone 4. The ground drying out, not going to be an issue for him. He's won on yielding ground in the past. We could see yielding ground on Sunday, the way I suppose with the lack of rain forecast. And I thought he won with a nice bit up his sleeve. He's a course and distance winner, and set right down the bottom of the weights for Eddie Cawley. Attaboy Charlie. I can't wait to hear Jerry Hannon call that again, perhaps. But 6 to 1. Look, it's a very, very competitive race at the moment. We've 34 still entered. We'll know more tomorrow, but I know it's definitely the plan for Attaboy Charlie. He's been well backed in the week, and I think he could take a little bit of stopping in this particular contest. But shout out to Thomas, as I mentioned, and does a great job with his younger horses, and has a horse running at Dundalk tomorrow night, Morning Logic, and that itself could be a tip this weekend.
Certainly could. Well, that's our 5 races looked at. We're going to head into our second and final break in this week's show. And coming up after, Barry has a word with Michael O'Sullivan, who's got a big weekend on board Marine Nationale.
Justified favouritism, but sharp up deck out in front, and ready for John McConnell and Alex Harvey.
Western victory, Silver Long. That'll be the finishing order.
Right, welcome back to Champ.ie, and Dublin Racing Festival, of course, is this weekend. And, well, we're delighted to have a man who's going to have one very big mount at the weekend, and that is Michael O'Sullivan. Michael, of course, going to be on board Marine Nationale. Michael, it's great to have you on Champ.ie. How are you this evening? And I'm sure very much looking forward to the weekend.
All good, lads. Yeah, thanks for having me on. Obviously, very much looking forward to the weekend. It's a huge weekend's racing, so fingers crossed we have some luck.
Right, Michael, I suppose it's always great. We always like to do this with our guests that come on, and people would see the name Michael O'Sullivan, down to ride horses and everything. How did it all begin for Michael O'Sullivan? How did you get into the racing game? Tell us the backstory.
Sure, look, I was probably bred into it, really. Grew up surrounded by horses. My father was an amateur jockey, and my uncle Eugene is a trainer, so I had no choice really but to start riding ponies. All my cousins rode as well, so started from a young age, and had a great upbringing really. My father brought me all over the country, you know, show jumping and dressage, cross country, eventing and all that. So yeah, I had a good upbringing, and I suppose started point to pointing then when I was 16 and 17, and that's where it all started.
Yeah, and I suppose that's the the place for where jockeys get their grounding, get into the game, riding point to point winners. After you rode your first winner in a point to point, did you always know that that was the one thing you wanted to do, continue on and to be a jockey at a professional level?
Yeah, I suppose I always had a go for it anyway. Obviously, I was lucky that I had a good upbringing and was given good head starts with horses at home and stuff. And I had my first winner in Castletowngeoghegan in a point to point, and that was a great thrill. And obviously, it's all I know really. So it's not that I had no other choice, but it's all I knew what to do, and loved every second of it. Yeah.
And talk us through then the progression from the point to points into riding your first winner on the track, and how the association came about with Barry Connell.
Yeah, my first winner on the track was a mare called Wilco's Diana for Eugene in a Mare's Hunter Chase in Cork, in Mallow, my local track. So that was a good day, and I started getting more rides in the tracks from them on. I suppose the association with Barry Connell came first and foremost in point to points. I rode a horse called Time Waits for No One in an open lightweight. I was second on him, and then I was second on him in a Hunter Chase in Downpatrick, and I rode him in the Hunter Chase at the Punchestown Festival as well. But I hadn't really much dealings with Barry then. Alan Fleming was training him, and he wasn't a high profile horse or anything, so I wasn't meeting Barry much. But I really got to know him then. I just rang for the ride on Marine in the bumper. I seen he was entered, and kind of thought Barry had no stable amateur, so rang him for a ride, and luckily enough got on him, and he won, and that's where it started then. Yeah.
It really did. And your career, since then, like it's gone from strength to strength. And obviously, having that winner at Cheltenham, tell us and talk us through what that must feel like. Because for any young person watching this show this evening, or has a love for the horses or a love for racing in general, the dream, I'm sure, when you grow up in a county like Tipperary or Cork, it's to win an All-Ireland medal with Cork in football or hurling or whatever. Well, not maybe in Tipperary so much in the football where I'm from, but more in the hurling. But from a jockey's point of view, when you're going out there morning after morning, riding out horses, the dream must be someday to get that chance to ride at Cheltenham, but to ride a winner there, that must be some feeling.
Yeah, obviously, look, to get a ride there as a professional is obviously a dream come true, and for it to be the Supreme, then the first race at the festival, a grade one, huge race and a huge atmosphere. That was very special. Look, and I was very privileged to get that opportunity and to come across a couple of them types of horses so early on. But yeah, to win it was amazing. I suppose it's hard to put into words, but I tried to appreciate every second of it. But I suppose you can't really appreciate it until it's done. But you just want more. You want more now, and yeah, that was an amazing day, and some of my family were there, and obviously it was high profile, and yeah, it was I got a great kick out of it, and you just want, as I said, you want to do it again.
I've often wondered for top class jockeys when you get on board a horse, is it more different getting on Marine Nationale for a big race than it is maybe riding a horse at Fairyhouse or Punchestown, not of the same stature as a grade one horse? Or is it like, just in your mind, you're there to do a job and that's it?
You'd be lying if you said it wasn't different. Obviously, there's a lot more pressure involved first and foremost, but I think second to that, that caliber of horse is just a bit different. It's probably a bit simpler, but they're just so classy and they're just so much better than most horses. Really, they jump and travel with that extra bit of exuberance, and yeah, there's a bit more pressure and more eyes on you. So yeah, it's definitely a bit different anyway. But it's a lovely feeling to have.
And I'm just going to put you on the spot before I pass you over to Barry about this weekend's racing. But growing up, who was your idol in the saddle?
Lots of people. Obviously, Davy and Barry, Gerri and Ruby would be the main ones on the track. But I suppose Derek O'Connor and Jamie Codd point to point as well. They'd be the main ones.
Yeah, Michael, great to have you on the show. So I suppose we're looking forward to be down in the Red Line as well. I think Michael's on a preview night that Champ.ie is doing. So we can't wait for that. But Michael, I suppose Marine Nationale, look, he's unbeaten. I think David was speaking about the pressure. He's obviously 6 from 6 over since he started his racing career. But what did you make of his chasing debut? Because he seemed to jump so well and so quick away from his fences. It was worth the wait, I'd say.
Yeah, definitely. Sure, look, you'd have to be very satisfied with it, even more than satisfied. He was very good. His jumping was exceptional, and he was very exuberant but measured at the same time. So, you could see him looking from fence to fence and really enjoying it. Obviously, it was his first run in a long time as well. So, you're always going to have that doubt whether his exuberance for it is still there and whether the fitness is there and everything. But it was clear to see that was all there, and we were 100% happy with it. It was hard not to be, and he's come out of that race so well. So yeah, it was great.
I think having Barry on the podcast last year, just before Cheltenham, he was saying, his mind, his attitude, his mind is almost bomb-proof. And I suppose the last day, your comments afterwards, and it was clear, he was obviously it was his first run for, I think it was 288 days. Did you think he was a little bit more free or fresh last time out, first time over fences?
Definitely he was. He was a small bit more in my hands, but I suppose we rode him a bit differently as well. He's probably been covered up in behind horses in a lot of his starts, and I just lined up to give him a sight of the first and not be getting him into any trouble. And he just locked onto the first fence and carried me down to it and winged it. And after that he travelled away down the hill away from the stands, and obviously Danny Mullins wasn't going to leave me steadied up in front. He sat in my girt and pushed him along. So yeah, it was nice to show people that he's not a one-trick pony, and he's genuine enough to go on out in front and do it that way as well. So gives us another string to our bow, and gives the opposition more to think about. So yeah, that was very good.
Yeah, and obviously he's favourite now for the Arkle. I'd say you're probably happy Gaelic Warrior isn't showing up. You Facile Vig, you ran into him obviously at Cheltenham last year. His last 3 starts though, Michael, I wanted to ask you, has been on soft ground. I think you've made no secret, Barry the same, about how this horse, might be even better on nicer ground. We haven't much rain forecast. Could we see a much better horse on nicer ground? It's a frightening thing to think about, isn't it?
Yeah, it's definitely looking at the forecast. It's probably the first time he's going to get ground that really, really suits him. I think he's shown that he handles softer ground. But look, he's I know it's different, but his 2 bumpers were on that bit quicker ground, and he was very good. But look, it definitely won't inconvenience Marine, but it might inconvenience some of the others like Facile. So it's definitely a positive for us.
Yeah, other entries at the weekend are obviously, you're on board Ethical Diamond in the 150. We have 9 Graces coming up as well on Saturday, and Hennessy. Talk us through, I suppose, your rides on Saturday outside Marine Nationale.
Yeah, obviously I have a couple for Barry and a couple for Willie, so it was great. I think that Juvenile Hurdle could be, the race of the weekend. Really, I think this year it's really it might be the strongest division in my opinion. Like even Willie's alone, you could stick a pin in them. It's very vague. A lot of them are very exciting, Ethical Diamond I'm riding, he was favoured at Christmas, and there was probably a lot of expectation and a lot of hype about him. He was an expensive horse off the flat. He's by Autod, he's a classy individual. And look, he was probably disappointing in his maiden hurdle at Christmas, but things might have been in his favour that day. The ground was soft to heavy. He probably ran a lot in Paul's hands free, his first run over hurdles. He jumped well, but he was maybe a bit too careful, and I think all that combined, it just paid. In the last furlong, he got tired. But they like him at home, so one of Willie Mullins, he'd still give him a chance. If he does things right, a better race might suit him better. But as I said, Willie has a lot of nice ones in that. I think it could be one of the races of the weekend.
Yeah, certainly. 9 Graces, obviously, she's obviously running in the Barry Connell colours as well. She runs out in the 3 mile handicap, I believe, on Saturday. That's the listed contest.
Yeah, she's a mare I love now. She's very straightforward, travels and jumps, and very, very genuine. I love riding her, and I think she has a solid each way chance, and I think she's a good chance. I wouldn't be swapping her for anything else anyway. She had a good run at Christmas. She was only beaten ahead really, and was genuine to the line. And on another day she might have got her head in front behind good mare Ted Walsh's Gay Queel. So look, her work has been good since, and she did a nice bit of work last week. So looking forward to her as well.
Yeah, and Hennessy, obviously, that runs in the Handicap Chase listed event at 4:10. And Willie Mullins has a couple in here, and you're aboard Hennessy. He's a lightly raced individual over fences.
Yeah, look, it's one of Willie's with a lightweight and a handicap. That doesn't happen too often, so he has to have his chance. He won his beginners in Clonmel on heavyish ground. It's probably his first time running on that bit quicker ground, which is probably a bit unknown. But he had a grand run in Limerick the last day. He made all running, and his jumping seemed to improve. He didn't make any mistakes. So obviously, look, it's a competitive handicap, but he's there with his chance.
There's William Money. I thought he looked quite nice. He got up to win by a short head. Thought he showed a good attitude at Navan. Did you like what you saw there? Potentially one for the future for yourself?
Definitely. I've written a lot of the work on him, and he's a Westerner, and they take a lot of time, and mentally they take a lot of time to mature. But that lad, I'd ridden him in a school in Bumper and Nace, and it was kind of just about settling him and getting him to do things right. And he seemed to learn a lot that day, and his work from that just kept improving. And look, he's a 6-year-old. He was very fit going to Navan. We were hoping for a good run. You could say he was going to be in the first 3. Looking at the betting, Willie and Gordon's one, you just don't. You're unsure, But I thought in a steadily run race, which wouldn't really have suited him, he was in Finney's hands. But I thought he showed a great turn of foot to quick and I thought what he did was very impressive, and I thought Finney was very good in him actually. And he seems to come out of the race well. I know he's in the betting for the champion bumper, but I don't think Barry will take him there. He might go for a winner's bumper in a couple of weeks' time in Naas or Fairyhouse maybe. And he'll probably, he'll be a nice hurdler to look forward to for next year. And I think them Westerners, the more racing they get, the more they improve.
Yeah, from the Eugene O'Sullivan Academy, obviously you'll have a keen eye on Corbett's Cross. I wanted to ask you about this horse because he's a horse that I've followed now right throughout his career. Obviously, started with your dad Eugene, but Corbett's Cross. What have you made of, I suppose, his chasing career to date, and I suppose long term, where do you think his future might lie?
I definitely don't think he's fulfilled his potential so far. Obviously, he won a competitive beginner's chase in Fairyhouse quite well. I thought he's running Leopardstown the last day was okay, but I didn't think it was. He didn't show as good as he is. He jumped okay, but he was a bit careful. I think the more market's used to him now, the better he'll get. I thought he might go to Sandown on Saturday, but he's not declared whether he'll run Sunday or not. We'll know in the morning. But I'd say he's going to improve, and I'd say even going forward, his jumping obviously has to get a bit slicker, but I think it will, and the more confidence he gets and Mark gets with him, I'd say he'll come on leaps and bounds. There's definitely more to come from him anyway. I'm sure Emmett has a plan for him, but he looks, maybe if he keeps going the right way, he's a Gold Cup horse in the next couple of years. You'd be hoping so anyway.
Yeah, wow, GCN is a horse clearly with a big engine, Michael. Finally, I suppose before we do wrap up, look forward to meeting you, of course, down on the 16th, I do believe, in the Red Line in Byrnestown. But I suppose for Champ.ie listeners, we've mentioned a good couple of horses there, but is there any dark horse or one that we should be keeping our eye on, maybe a young horse that we haven't mentioned?
Sat in Majborough this morning. I know it's one of Willie's Juvenile Saturday. Looking forward to seeing what he does. Obviously, he's a massive big horse, so anything he does now this year is only going. Looking at him, I'd say even over fences in time. I thought he gave me a fair feel now. In terms of Barry's, he's another nice Westerner horse there. I'm not sure if he'll run him in the spring or not, but he's called Each to Their Own. He's one I'd be excited about for next year in maiden hurdles and that.
David, anything else before we let Michael go? It was a fascinating chat there.
Yeah, brilliant, Michael, and so good of you to come on the show. We're delighted to have you this week. And I suppose all we've got to say is, look, the best to look at the weekend. We hope Marine Nationale jumps out of your hands again, and it's another big race win for you. And the very best to look for the remainder of the season. And thanks a million for coming on the show.
No problem at all. Thanks very much, lads.
Let's move on to the most important part of the show, lads. Let's find some winners. Let's find Barry Doyle, your best bets before we go to Ronan's best bets, and then get nap selections.
Yeah, well, best bets before the naps, and we'll keep the nap back. I did mention that I'm really keen on obviously Attaboy Charlie to run a big race in the Liffey handicaps. I'm going to put that forward as a best bet at 6-1. It's competitive, but I just think he's a horse going in the right direction that could have more scope. The other horse I like is Monjabello. Was second running on, was a real eye catcher, I thought, at Navan, that listed bumper behind Only by Night, who since, I suppose, let down the form a little bit. But Monjabello was very impressive up the north in the Maneer Silks, who won this course listed. This grade 2, should I say, Mayor's Bumper at Leopardstown for the last 2 seasons. So they're going for a hat-trick themselves. And when we spoke to Darrell Jacob on the show, this was the plan. So for the Crawfords in that contest, 4-1, the last race of the Dublin Racing Festival, I thought that was a fair price for Monjabello, who I think is a horse going in the right direction. And yeah, we'll keep back. Look, we'll put in Morning Logic. Why won't we? Dundalk tomorrow night for Thomas Coyle. We'll put him in because, look, I like the horse. I think he's more scope. He's the plan. Thomas is telling me anyway, the plan is to go to Linkfield, but you'll have to win this to get there. So let's see how it gets on tomorrow night in Dundalk. Right,
Ronan, best bets for you this weekend?
I've got a few that I mentioned. Jatara I like, and I mentioned that before already. But the ones I haven't mentioned, Mayor's Walk goes into 12:40 to Paddy Mullins Mayor's Handicap Hurdle on Sunday. I hope she's declared. Obviously, we're recording this on Thursday, but I think she could be very well handicapped. She's off a mark of 121. Go back and look at her last race. She was running in Jatara's race in a listed mare's hurdle there at Punchestown. She was travelling like an absolute travelly thing into the race, and she upended the second last, and it just went, it went tits up from there. Rachel Blackmore allowed her to come home in her own time, and I'm sure Henry de Brom had just came home and said, right, we've got a well handicapped mare there. If she ran the race that we thought she was going to run, she's probably going to be second or third. She'd be like running off 130 or something like that now. She's 1-2-1. I said I just kept her back for the mare's handicap hurdle. She's in around 20-1 mark. I've backed her already in the hope that she is declared. So I played a bit of bingo there. Hopefully she is declared in the morning, but I think that's a huge price. Gentleman, to me, I'm not saying he can beat El Fabiolo, but I'm not actually convinced El Fabiolo should be as short as he is. Like, he's like jumping blemish still that I still kind of hold against him. I don't think he jumped as well as he could at Cork as well on this comeback. And a good point was made today by my colleague here, Mark Boylan. A few of these favourites have been kind of turned over when the races have been, rescheduled and stuff. If you think back to the Lawlers, etc., things like that. John Bon obviously last week, and I wonder, is that sort of any sort of play at all? In any case, gentlemen, to me, I think there's ways you can back him if you don't want to take on El Fabiolo. I think you could back him in a match bet to beat Dino Blue. I like that. I think he won the race last season, going really well from the front. I think they'll do the same again, and he might even get better ground, which that he did at Christmas when he raced against Dino Blue. Or you could back him without Gentleman to me, probably at a bigger price. And I like both of those angles into that race. And the other one I like. No, that's it. That's it for me. We're saving the naps, are we? We're
going to go into the naps now. Nothing for Dundalk, no. Nothing. You haven't gone through the Dundalk.
I'll be there, but I've nothing there.
All right, that's fair enough. No, I just thought you might have. I just thought you might have a little one to throw in there as well, like Baz. Right, nap picks, because that's the one that punters or viewers enjoy each and every week. Of course, punters as well. Ronan, firstly, nap pick this weekend.
Yeah, I'm going for Madara in the 410, the Ryanair Handicap Chase on Saturday. I think she could be very well handicapped. She loads of scope to improve, and for all the reasons I said, I think the British handicap chasers, the 2 mile handicap chasers coming over here, I think that's an angle I like, and I think there's a bit of juice in her kind of price around 5-1 mark.
And the Barry Doyle nap this weekend,
Jatara. I think there's lots in her favour. Taking you on with the nap this week, Dave, and look, I just think, given her rating, 142, looking at, race conditions, the fact that she's getting £7 here, stepping up and tripping another 2 furlongs, being by walk in the park, the front and second in the market, obviously have won on really testing ground. Loughlin seemed to really appreciate, more testing conditions in Limerick. Obviously, Predator's Gold, it was pretty testing at Leopardstown at Christmas as well. That's the favourite. Jatara, being by walk in the park, I think she'll appreciate that little bit of nicer ground. And she's a nice bit of experience as well to go in and take on the boys. Sometimes you see these fillies and mares kept to their own sex, but the fact that she is going in against the boys off the back of a total of 8 run. She's a second season novice, as Ronan mentioned. I think there's a lot in her favour here. And, she's never been out of the money at Leopardstown, so 4-1. Rachel Blackmore on board. I think she'll get a nice winner for Jessica Harrington on day 1 of the Dublin Racing Festival.
Yeah, Predator's Goal, as I said earlier in the show, that I think is just an outstanding chance stepping up and trip. Right, lads, before we finish up, just a couple of talking points before we just move on to our interview with Michael O'Sullivan this evening. Ronan, John Bon getting beaten, how big of a concern was that? Also, how impressed were you by the Galmoy Hurdle winner last week at Gowran in Monkfish, and also the Thyestes winner? Ain't that a shame?
John Bon, I don't know what to make of it really. He did absolutely upend that fence, and probably, now didn't jump well in general. So you could make a case that he actually did quite well to get where he did, but going forward, obviously, the jumping blemishes are, that's a worry, really, isn't it? I still think if you get him on better ground, that's a real key to John Bon. Like, real quick ground might just be a different proposition. And Duvan, I always thought he skipped off that good ground at Cheltenham when he won the Arkle. and Duvan obviously John Bon's brother, so maybe that's the only angle now, but obviously he has plenty to do with Al Fabiolo. Monkfish, yeah, good to see him win down in Gowran Park. I missed it completely and I didn't see it live, and I've only kind of watched it back once, so I don't have much to add, I suppose. And Ain't That a Shame was just a pain for me. That was a horse I backed at least 3 or 4 times before, and obviously
done it well, in fairness.
Yeah, he won well. Yeah, he won well. So it looked like a real slog, I suppose, in Thyestes. I've seen plenty of them were pulled up, and he's obviously stayed on strongly. But yeah, I'm sure you boys are down there. Popular winner, I'm sure.
Yeah, got a great reception. And of course, Rachel Blackmore on board for Henry de Bromhead and the Rob Corr colours. Absolutely fabulous day there last weekend. Barry, just quickly before we get Michael in, your take on those 3 points that I had with Ronan, Ain't That a Shame, Monkfish, and of course the defeat to John Bon last weekend.
Well, John Bon, he's a habit of throwing in a performance like that, doesn't he? So I don't think we saw the real John Bon on that occasion. Obviously, that bad mistake he made, I think it was at the fence at the top of the hill, ended all chance. So for him to actually lead at the last, thought he'd done well. But I think long-term, this horse has to step up and trip. He's a point-to-point winner. I don't know why they're persistent, because he just will not reverse the form with El Fabiolo, who's an absolute monster. That's not going to happen. So look, if he was mine, I'd be stepping him up to the Ryanair, which looks a lot more open now. Allo coming out of the race due to injury once again. So that's, I suppose, my thoughts on John Bon. In relation to Monkfish, I heard someone saying recently, he's held together with sellotape. I think he's a 10-year-old lightly raced individual who is clearly at home on those type of conditions. Whether he's up to winning a stairs hurdle at the age of 10, I doubt it now personally.